Hello, and welcome back to Crank Commentaries. As always, I am your host, Jake Del Mastro, and I'm joined by my very good friend and co-host, Keaton Byer.
Good morning, and welcome to Crane Kick Commentaries. If you look out your left-hand side, you will see Birdman. If you look out your right-hand side, you will see that it is part 2.
That is indeed the truth.
I don't know what I'm doing here. It's earlier than we normally record, so I'm trying to be chipper, and that seems to be how it manifested.
So it's 11:30, Keaton.
It's earlier than we normally record, is what I said.
Okay.
It's not
okay.
early.
Right. Okay. I mean, as Keaton mentioned, we are covering Birdman once again.
Indeed.
We're getting into all the, I think, more interesting details on this episode.
Yeah, we're getting into the meat and the potatoes.
Yeah, and the production.
That is the meat and potatoes.
Exactly.
So yeah, last week we didn't really talk about, like, the production at all. We just talked about, like, music and, like, the, like, pre-production. And yeah, the writing. And how they were, like, the writers were all, like, pretty, afraid of tackling this project, I think, at first.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't think they had anything to worry about considering what the rest of the film
what we're getting into today. Yeah, so
yeah.
So I guess without further ado, let's jump right in to the production. So, like, I just want to open with this quote from Inuritu because I thought it was a good quote about the production, I think.
Oh, yeah, I also think this is a good quote that you can kind of understand his thought process to a certain extent.
Yeah, exactly. So do you want to read that?
I realized, and I am probably the last person in the world to realize this, that we live our lives with no editing. From the moment we open our eyes, we live in a Steadicam form, and the only editing is when we talk about our lives or remember things. So I wanted this character to be submerged in that inescapable reality, and the audience has to live these desperate 3 days alongside him.
Yeah, I think that quote, like, really illuminates how, like, deep in it Inuritu is. He's like...
Well, I just think the funniest thing is that, that he puts the word Steadicam in there.
I know, hilarious. And that
because that really, it's like...
That's what I mean.
Really shows how, like, steeped in cinema he is, that, like, his internal, like, thought process imagines that he is walking around with this piece of film equipment all the time.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. He's so deep into the film universe that he, like, as he says, he's the last person to realize, like, he's thinking of his life as a film, you know?
Exactly.
It's like, huh, the film that is my life never has any cuts. Interesting.
Yeah.
I should make a movie like that.
I should make a movie about that, yeah. And, we're also never on a tripod. We're never, like,
no, it's never a stationary...
It's never a stationary shot.
But it's interesting that he, like, acknowledges this, but according to, like, Emma Stone specifically, she said that he wanted to, quote-unquote, keep the rabbit in the hat. Because, and that means, by that she meant that, like, he doesn't want to ruin the magic,
What do you mean? Like,
he didn't want, at least her perspective is that, because she was asked about how they filmed it.
Oh, okay, so he wants to, kind of, he's a magician kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly, keep the rabbit in the hat.
Tell you how the trick is done.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, I see.
So, with that in mind, we're going to ruin that in the next...
Well, yeah, because, I mean, I don't know how hard he tried.
Well, that's what I was just going to say.
I think this movie was just so bait for, like, cinematography geeks to just disassemble.
Yeah, it is.
So that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, exactly, it is. It's like for film nerds to just pick apart.
Exactly. So,
and that, to be fair, that was just Emma Stone.
Well, I mean, I think that tracks with, like, his previous comments about, like, not wanting to reveal, like, what the alternate ending was.
Yeah.
Shit like that. Yeah.
And I think that's just how he is about his films. Like, I don't think that's anything to do with this film in particular.
No, I don't think so.
But yeah, so in order to, like, do the whole, like, it's such an intense process, right? So how did you describe it earlier? Like, because you said something earlier that, like, summed it up. What was it? They basically, and we're going to go into a lot more detail about this, but they basically, like, shot 2 films for this film.
Yeah, they shot the movie twice, essentially.
Because they had to figure it out. Like, it's all about this first, they spent so long, like, using stand-in actors and shooting on, like, so basically they went to a studio and kind of, like, staged it out and tried to, like, figure out.
I would love to see that.
Exactly. Like, they tried to figure out how they were going to do it, basically. And they came to the conclusion that, like, okay, we're not going to be able to do this, like, fully on location in a theater. Like, it's not going to work.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
But obviously, Alejandro was very, very determined to get it into a theater. And obviously they did eventually get it into the St. James Theater, which is on Broadway, but as we noted in the last...
It does not open onto Times Square.
Yeah, as we noted on the last episode, it does not. So that is an inaccuracy for all you folks who really like that sort of thing. So this is from Wikipedia. This is what it says. They spent a few months designing and making blueprints of the shots and blocking the scenes, using the stand-ins to read and walk through the script. The planning was precise.
I wonder if blueprints is actually a very interesting way of putting it, because I wonder if they were on, like, a soundstage with, like, blue walls.
Like, yeah, because blueprints is quoted, like...
Yeah, like, I'm wondering if it's literally everything is blue because it's on a soundstage.
That would be hilarious.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, continue. I just wanted to point that out.
So this is this also addresses kind of some of the stuff we were talking about last week. Inarritu said, there was no room to improvise at all. Every moment, every line, every door opening, absolutely everything was rehearsed. So that kind of...
Yeah, basically they knew exactly what the movie looked like before they started filming it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, we'll talk a lot more about the cinematographer. What was his name?
Lubezki?
What was his first name?
Emmanuel
Lubezki. We'll talk about him more, I imagine, a little bit later, but he had a good quote, which kind of is what we're talking about here. He said, like an upside-down movie where you do post-production before the production.
That's funny.
So, like...
Yeah, no, like, because you do the editing before you actually shoot it.
Yeah, you figure out where you're going to do all these edits, right? So
yeah,
you have
it's a very interesting way to...
You have to do that.
But yeah, this is also an interesting process because, like, I mean, even when we were talking about, like, Barry Lyndon, which is, like talking about how Kubrick worked, you know, people generally think of him as, like, a very, like, precise director, but, like, this is, like, even, like, millions of times, like, more intense than what he did, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, even we were talking about Barry Lyndon about, like, Kubrick didn't even know what the angle was before...
Yeah, like, he sort of did this, he did,
right?
like, a free-form version of this, almost.
Exactly,
like, he did this when everybody showed up.
Exactly.
So it's actually a similar process when you think about it.
Well, it is, except this... Actually, they're probably equally annoying for the actors, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I think this is probably better on the actors, because at least it is, yeah, sure, it's annoying in that what you have to do is difficult, but, like, he's taking all the possible steps to, like,
That's
like, when
true,
he met with Michael Keaton, he said, this is gonna be hard as fuck.
Yeah,
on you.
exactly.
And, you know, they seem to know what they're getting into, and they're actually, like, rehearsing prior to, like, showing up and being like, actually, we're not going to shoot any of this, even though you thought you're showing up to a film set. We're going to rehearse for 4 hours in costume.
Yeah,
so,
which is, like, I guess, exactly what Kubrick was doing.
Like, that was exactly what he did, yeah.
Yeah.
So, like...
Yeah, that's funny.
So it is the same thing, it's just...
Well, yeah, the only difference is that before this, Inarritu knew what was going on, but Kubrick did.
Yeah, exactly. Inarritu, like, he is essentially just scheduled better. Like, he planned it ahead of time and
exactly.
scheduled it, whereas Kubrick just showed up and was like, "Okay, this is what we're doing."
Yeah, exactly.
So to each their own, and
yeah. I think we're gonna keep talking about this kind of thing as we go along, not just on this film, but on future films, about like how different directors like approach like getting things done.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting theme, and like the differences between directors are quite interesting.
I mean, I think we'll have to do some more movies by like more well-known directors, just so that we can have them as like a benchmark.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? We should do like a few weeks.
Like we'll have to do like Scorsese and like Spielberg or something like that.
Yeah, we should do like a good director series where we do like a month or something of like, I guess it's only two movies, but still.
Yeah, what, a month? Yeah, that's true. A month of. Anyway, we'll do something. We'll do like. Yeah, I don't know. We'll do like a classic every.
Every few movies. We'll do like,
or it'll be like a classic director, but it will be like not their most well-known film or something like that.
I mean, with Scorsese, that would be kind of difficult because they're kind of all.
Well, we'll do like The King of Comedy or whatever.
Oh, that's a great movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're getting sidetracked here. What we're yeah. So this is kind of the last detail before we get into the real nitty-gritty. But this is just like what Edward Norton had to say about the filming process. He said that normally in movie production, half the people can quote unquote check out due to like the repetitive aspects. But
I could imagine him checking.
Yeah, out. I mean, I don't know. Like he's an interesting actor to me. I don't know. I get mixed vibes from him. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't know. Like maybe it's just like his. Maybe it just depends on the project. You know. Maybe he's a talented actor who,
is convincing.
Just sometimes does it for the money.
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
Maybe he's like James Spader.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's got
I don't know. They give me similar vibes. I think
James Spader and Edward Norton. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
actually, that's very true. But yeah, he said during the shooting of This is Edward Norton, not James Spader. He said during the shooting of Birdman.
James Spader was in Birdman.
Well, maybe he was hanging around. Everybody's on the whole thing, and you're all on pins and needles because you're all relying on 40 other people not to drop the ball. Which is a good point. More so than. I
mean, that's pretty much any movie production, but this is like just to the end.
Well, yeah, that's like is that on steroids? Because it's like each shot.
Well, I mean,
14 minutes.
I don't think we really did a very good job of explaining why this movie was so difficult. No, I mean, maybe we should just, like, clarify,
yes. I think we should clarify.
Exactly what's going on here. Like, basically, like, we're talking about, like, takes that last, like, 6 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is, like, a really long time to do one take.
At minimum 6 minutes, yeah.
And which are all completely rehearsed and have to be, like, done to the millimeter. You can't miss a mark, right?
Yeah, with no cutting, yeah, you've got to do...
Well, no, but also especially because the cut needs to line up with the next shot. So you have to, the camera has to be in the exact right place at the end of the beginning and end of every
Yeah, exactly. Which is...
So it's like, you have to be really on your mark, and you have to make sure that you don't make a giant mistake in the whole time. But yeah, we're talking about takes that last longer than a roll of film does in my camera.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking about takes that are in some cases like 7% of the movie at once. It's like
exactly, yeah.
Like there's not that many takes in this film in the final cut.
No, exactly.
But in order to make it that way, you have to do each one perfectly.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what Edward Norton's talking about. Is you've got every person involved in the sound and the cinematography and the actors, they all have to do it perfectly. Normally, in a normal film, you have to do that for 2 minutes maximum while you're shooting, and then they cut, and then you switch around, and then you do it again for 2-3 minutes, even maybe from like 30 seconds to 2 to 3 minutes. That's not really based on much, but that's kind of my guess on standard time. But then in this,
yeah, basically you can't really fuck it up,
Exactly. And
you have all these people who are all like, you have to rely on everybody, right?
Yeah.
It's like the Apollo program.
It is like the Apollo program. It's exactly like the Apollo program. It's
Except I guess the consequences for screwing it up are not quite as bad.
It depends on who your actors are.
Yeah.
So Norton was saying because of this. Oh no, this is Emma Stone now, saying that because of the 40 other people you need to rely on. She said that Iñárritu's process, he's able to get the best out of his cast. His process creates this sort of fury in you, and then you end up realizing that he's just got so much out of you, and you didn't even know you had. But yeah, it's an interesting insight into how she viewed the movie, I think, and I think how everybody viewed the movie, because I think that's kind of what you got to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that would ignite more fury in me is if I was on the set of Living in Oblivion. Like if I was on the set of the movie that they made in
right. Well, imagine if
which is coincidentally also called Living in Oblivion.
That's why it confused me when you sent me the picture of the clacker that said, I was like, wait, what is this now?
Yeah.
But imagine if these two movies were mixed. So imagine that.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like the opposite ends of like the spectrum here.
Go on.
Well, just, I mean, sort of like meta and... I mean, okay, so this is kind of a poorly put together thought. But, we'll go on with it.
Yeah.
But, so basically, like, there's a lot of similarities actually in the content of these two movies because, like, this is about a play which, is kind of screwing up at every moment.
Yeah.
And that's about a movie which is screwing up at every moment.
That's true. There is a lot in common.
And you have, like, actors with big personalities that are in both of them, right?
Yeah, we really did not plan how similar these movies are.
No, honestly, like, this is just coincidence, so we did them back-to-back. But also, if you look at the way they were shot, like, I mean, like, it seems like Living in Oblivion was shot in, like, the most amateurish way possible.
Yeah. Well, it is kind of opposite ends of, like, the professional versus amateur spectrum in a way. Because
not that Living in Oblivion is amateur. But like it's amateurish in comparison to this.
Exactly. It's not amateur at all.
Like amateur is what we do.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not amateur. It's the other end of the professional spectrum.
Exactly.
Like you have one guy. Anyway, we don't need to rehash Living in Oblivion. So.
But yeah, no, there's a lot of parallels here, and parallels and opposites.
A lot of that.
Yeah. Parallels and perpendiculars.
Perpendiculars. Exactly. Keep your analogies in line.
Yeah. So that's
in line. Did you get it? Oh, that's a sick pun. I didn't even plan it.
That's bad.
God, that's good shit. So Naomi Watts, she was talking about how, like, I think we sort of talked about this last week. Not really, but like just. Like, because the writers were had experience writing for stage plays.
Yeah.
And because, the rehearsal process and the way it's shot makes it so much like a stage play, that's what Naomi Watts said. She felt emblematic of how it feels on stage. At least my longtime memories from long ago. I guess Naomi Watts was on the stage. I guess that's what that means. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But a lot of actresses and actors started on the stage, so...
Yeah, I mean, that's one way to learn. Did Edward Norton by any chance? He seems like he might.
I think he did. I think
yeah.
We mentioned that last week, that he had some experience on the stage, which is why he was able to kind of own the role a little bit.
Yeah, so it looks like he spent quite a bit of time in the theater. In New York theater, specifically. Also, while I'm on his Wikipedia article, I would just like to say that he was from Boston. Ew.
Ugh. Gross.
Gross, yeah. Come at us, Bostonians. Also, he is the UN Goodwill Ambassador for Biodiversity. Interesting.
That's very interesting. How is that like how Leonardo DiCaprio is the UN ambassador for climate change or whatever?
I don't know, yeah.
I mean, yeah,
Is
Leo's
he?
done good work. He's done some contradictory work in the sense that he also owns like a massive yacht. But
no, Leonardo DiCaprio, not Leonardo da Vinci. Fucking idiot.
yeah, come on. What year do they think this is? Which one's more relevant? Come on.
All right.
But yeah, Edward Norton said about the ending of the film, he said, "I've never been on a set where every day ended with an enormous, authentic sort of cheer at having made it. You're waiting for the scream from Inarritu, and everybody was genuinely excited."
Nice. Yeah, no, I'd be excited to be.
So that, again, reminds me of Living in Oblivion.
Yeah.
Where,
yeah,
like, at
really.
the end of the day, everyone's, like, so happy that they got through that challenge and, like, process.
Or thoroughly disappointed.
That it didn't work out, yeah.
Yeah.
But just that they got to the other side.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. But yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, like, pretty much any film is like that, but just to more or less degrees, right?
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, so that kind of brings us to, as I said, the true meat of what we're going to talk about.
Yeah. What do you say, the nuts and bolts?
The nuts and bolts.
The gritty, the real grit of it.
The real grit of it.
Or shall we say the real grain
the real
of it?
Grain.
Yeah.
REEL. Grain.
Okay, you're just putting too many things together.
Real grain.
Anyway, let's get to that segment.
And what segment is that?
Well, it's this one. Okay, we're talking about how they shot it. Birdman. All right.
Woo.
All right, before we start, I'm going to introduce some of the players here. And I'm going to introduce a couple more than usual because I think that
there's a lot going on here.
There's a lot going on here. So, director of photography, as we mentioned before, is Emmanuel Lubezki. The first AC, this is the focus puller, is Gregor Tavener. The second AC is Rebecca Venezia. And the Steadicam operator is Chris Herhoff.
You absolute beast.
Absolute legend.
Seriously. Oh my god. Like, Steadicam operator. More like hero. Like, he better have been paid the most out of any person in his film.
I mean, he got a serious workout, I think.
Yeah. If he...
Like, he must have been, like, really buff. But actually, let me look at his...
let's get a picture of him. What's his name again? Sorry.
Chris Herhoff. It's like spelled... Wait, why does he have an article on Stargate Wiki? I can't see like a... Oh, here. He looks like, he's doing okay. Oh, he was also the Steadicam... No, sorry, he was the B cam... Yeah, he was the Steadicam operator on Stargate, actually, interestingly.
The Stargate movie?
As well. Stargate movie, yeah.
That's funny. Crossover. Wow.
Crossover, yeah, interesting. That's why he had a Stargate Wiki article.
That's funny. Hey, he looks like he's in pretty good shape there. So what film is he doing here? He's doing Battleship with Liam Neeson.
Yeah, I believe that's is that a Michael Bay movie?
Probably. I don't know.
Yeah.
How you make a film out of the game Battleship is beyond me, but they managed.
Oh no, it's not. Or at least it's not directed by Michael Bay. Sorry, never mind. I don't know. It just seems like it would be a Michael Bay movie.
Yeah. So he's got knee pads. This is interesting looking at his whole setup. He's got like knee and shin pads. I guess in case he like whams himself in the shin with the camera.
Yeah, that's probably true. Or maybe at some point he has to like kneel down or something, which like on the surface that he's on, like maybe is not a good idea right there. But yeah, you can see he's in this picture at least he's carrying a Panavision camera, which is not a light thing.
It's huge. It's half as big as he is.
So yeah, And it looks like he's got a fucking oscilloscope attached to his camera. I don't know why.
He's got a lot going on there. So Chris Harhoff, the Steadicam operator, absolute legend.
Hairhoff, I believe.
Hairhoff.
I mean, I don't actually know that for a fact, but this is, I think, it looks like it's Dutch, so I think that's how you say it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, no, not, well, it is Dutch, but apparently he's from South Africa.
Well, also Dutch. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We got distracted about breaking down his equipment.
About the brilliance of Chris Hairhoff's equipment. But anyway, so speaking of equipment, as you can see in that picture, he's got a Panavision camera. Yeah. It looks like it's 35 millimeter. But what do you think they used for this? Do you think it was film or digital?
Film or digital? I'm gonna go. So this was a difficult question for two reasons.
Yeah. Your
first thought, because we've had this conversation before, obviously. So your first thought is, okay, this
movie was 2014, just so you know,
exactly.
Right?
This movie was 2014. So unless the director is a what's the word I'm looking for? Artiste, not auteur.
Auteur, which
he is. Let's be honest. Let's be clear. He is one of those. So unless the director's that, there's not really much of a chance that it's shot on film. So that's your first thought. But then, as you said, he is. So your second thought is, okay, well, would he do that? Is that necessary for this film? So really, what it comes down to is he just really into film and chose to do it because it doesn't make sense specifically for this film to be, you know what I mean? It's not like it's like a novelty specifically for this film to be shot on film. So, like, there's nothing about this movie that is like, oh, hey, look. So, final answer, yes, it is shot on film.
You're wrong.
Fuck.
Shot on digital. Because he's so auteurish that you're like, oh, he's gotta be shooting on film because he's
it is
fancy pants director.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
That's kind of what I thought. But the reasonable answer is on digital, especially just because of like with the Steadicam, I don't really know how that works, and I just feel like it's gonna.
Well, I mean, okay. So here's why.
Oh, and real length is a whole thing too. Real length. I don't know how that works.
Exactly. I was about to say that. Because, like, even if you don't... I mean, well, actually, I think specifically, like, Iñárritu's kind of a... he kind of... Digital is kind of his thing.
Right.
Like, he's kind of very much in that realm. Like, I mean, specifically, like, with, like, The Revenant.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about The Revenant.
Yeah, so, like, that was shot on... large format digital.
Yeah, that was like there's a whole thing about how he shot that, wasn't there?
And like that specifically like was like, lauded as like, great cinematography with digital.
Yeah,
right?
and also part of that was because they were like I forget where they were, like they were somewhere in Canada.
Yeah.
But like they only used natural lighting for the whole film, so
yeah, exactly.
So that could only...
Is that the same director? Sorry, same cinematographer? By the way?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, it is.
It is. Sick. Like, that's intense. Like, that, like, obviously, that's not the film we're talking about, but, like, you can only shoot for a certain amount of time every day and certain hours of the day.
Let me just go over Lubezki's, like, Academy Award wins.
Okay.
He's won 3 Academy Awards.
Holy shit.
So, he won his first Academy Award for Gravity.
Okay, yeah.
His second Academy Award for this film. I'm not the hugest fan of it, to be
I
honest.
seem to recall that.
Yeah. So he won his second Academy Award for this movie.
So that's 2 years in a row, because Gravity was 2013.
No. Oh, yeah, it was. Yeah. Second Academy Award for this film, and third Academy Award for The Revenant.
So 3 years in a row? Yes.
No, The Revenant...
It was 2015.
Oh, yeah, it was. Jesus
Christ.
Christ.
Won 3 Oscars in a row.
This guy did the 3-peat.
Holy shit.
This guy's better than Iñárritu.
Yeah, this guy is more... That's intense.
Let me just quickly see, like, what if they were all the same award.
Yeah, right. Are they all...
Are they all best cinematography? Well, I mean, I assume it would all be best cinematography because it's his.
Yeah, exactly.
Academy Awards, best cinematography. Yep, it's all best cinematography.
Has anyone ever done that? In the
what 3 best cinematographies in a row?
Any 3 of the same award in a row. It's in the modern era. I'm sure it happened in like the 30s or 40s when there's only 4 people winning Oscars, but you know.
Okay, let me see. Most consecutive Academy Awards.
Tom Hanks is the back-to-back, right? Or because it was.
There are a couple of people back-to-back here. I'm just looking. So yeah, Tom Hanks has it.
Just the back-to-back, not the 3-peat.
Okay, so we have Tom Hanks, Jason Robards, Katharine Hepburn, Spencer Tracy, and Louise Rand. Most of these people are really fucking old, but Tom Hanks is there.
So Tom Hanks did the 3-peat?
I mean, Tom Hanks isn't young, but like, you know.
No, but comparatively.
Yeah, so that's just actors, though. Who holds the record? Okay,
so hold on, that's just the back-to-back, though.
Yeah, okay, here we go. The record for consecutive Oscar wins is Thomas Little, with 5 Oscars in 4 years for art direction. This is in the 1940s.
1940s. Yeah, that's what I meant. Like, I don't count that shit because, come on.
Actually, I don't even think we've ever covered a single film from the 1940s.
Because there's no good films from the 1940s.
Keaton, are you sure you're making that statement?
I'm just Googling 1940s films right now, just to make sure I can stand by it.
What about It's a Wonderful Life?
Oh yeah, and Casablanca, 2 of my favorite films.
Yeah, Keaton, shut your mouth, okay?
Yeah, I just said that without thinking, but yeah, Citizen Kane.
Keaton, you fucking dumbass.
Oh god, that's funny. Yeah, there's a lot of good movies from the 1940s. In fact, someone could argue that it's the golden age of film. So what were we talking about before that?
We were talking about filming. So we established that this was digital.
Yes.
So we got kind of sidetracked about Emmanuel Lubezki's awards.
Yeah, well, the 3-peat, the modern era 3-peat, that's pretty impressive.
That's hard to do.
Yeah, in the 1940s, anyone could do it.
Thomas Little, like, you know.
Yeah, Thomas Little did it 5 times in 4 years.
Let me just see. I assume Gravity was shot on digital, but
it had to have been. That whole thing was like supposed to be like a technological masterpiece.
No, I mean, actually, most of the film was shot digitally.
Uh-huh.
But some of it was shot in 70mm.
But then, how did they mix it? Did it not just digitize the film in that?
Well, they scanned it, yeah.
So who gives a shit? Just fucking shoot it in digital. Stop being.
I mean, you understand that most films which are, you know, quote unquote shot on film are, unless we're talking about The Love Witch, which I'm sure we will one day.
Yeah, we've had this.
Most films which are shot on film are edited on digital.
Yeah, that's why I have such an issue with it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really blame anybody making a movie if that's the way you do it, just because I understand it's actually very hard to get everything done in production on film.
So why would you do it if you're just gonna have to scan it?
No, because, well, I mean, there are various reasons why you would want to shoot on set on film.
Uh-huh.
One of which is you know, the big D word, dynamic range.
I don't think that's the big D word, but that's a big D word.
Well, that's in terms of film. That's whenever somebody talks about, like, oh, why would you shoot on film? They're like, dynamic range, you know.
So do you want to go into?
We'll not talk about that because I'm still talking about why they shot this movie on digital.
Okay, go on.
Besides the fact that that's kind of Inarritu's deal.
See, now you're having trouble too.
Because you're confusing me, okay?
Yeah, it's not what I thought it was.
All right. You know, what was I gonna say? So anyway, yeah, no, it's literally just take length is, I think, a big reason why it would have been really hard to shoot this movie on film.
So,
because I mean, like, let's say you have a 15-minute magazine, right?
And that's your film. You're talking about a magazine.
Yeah.
Like a gun.
You have 15 minutes to film in your camera. Sorry?
Like a gun, but for your camera.
I guess, yeah.
Imagine a camera shaped like a gun.
I mean, not really.
No.
It's shaped like a really big. It's like a bazooka, if anything.
No, that's what I'm saying. But like, imagine a camera shaped like an AK-47.
It wouldn't be very
like
good.
A film camera, you like pop it in the bottom and then you pull the trigger to film.
That would be a very odd way of designing a camera. Anyway, let me get to what I'm getting to, okay?
Sorry.
Anyway, literally, like, okay, let's say you have a 15-minute magazine. Like, even if you're doing, like, 5-minute takes, you can only put 3 takes until you gotta change the magazine.
Right. Yeah, that is, and I guess...
And let's say that, like, okay, you have a magazine, and you do your 5-minute take, and you nail it on the first try.
Yeah.
And then let's say you have to do a 6-minute and then an 8-minute one after that or something like that, right? All of a sudden, that doesn't fit evenly, so you got a lot of wasted film on that magazine.
Yeah, that is kind of a nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And actually, this happens all the time, which is why a lot of independent films shoot on what is called short ends.
What is that?
Which is when a major motion picture doesn't finish a whole roll.
Oh, hilarious.
They cut it off and they store it, and then they sell it to independent films, essentially.
That's great.
So they're like making it with like the scraps of Hollywood.
That's awesome. That's great.
But yeah.
I assume it's cheap.
Yeah. The other thing about like why this wouldn't be shot on film is just because like, you know, film cameras are going to be a lot heavier. This is all on Steadicam, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
etc.
Like all the basic reasons why digital is slightly more convenient still apply.
Yeah, although the one thing I will say that would make this movie suited for film is that it's so impeccably rehearsed.
Yeah, right. That is true. Because you're less
but, I mean, I
wasted
think all the other
sense.
drawbacks make it so that, I mean, also, I don't think Inarritu ever intended to shoot this movie on film, as far as I know.
No. Again,
I think he
not
was
his
just
thing,
like,
as you
I know
mentioned.
digital, I'm going to do digital, right?
Yeah, as you mentioned, not really his thing.
But yeah, what was I going to say? Yeah, so, as I previously alluded to, as far as I can tell, there is not a single shot in this film which is on a tripod.
Not a single shot. Let me think. What about the time lapse?
But doesn't that start from a different angle? Well, okay, yeah, the time lapse is probably on a tripod, to be honest.
In reality, I know what you're saying though.
Yeah.
Like to actually technically do it, they probably did that, but like none of that.
Yeah, because I guess you're not going to have a guy sit there with a Steadicam for like 6 hours or whatever.
But the guy placed the camera there after having been on a Steadicam, so it's not like the whole shot was on a tripod, even if it was, which we don't know that it was. But the point is,
well, also they could have switched it in the time in between the time lapse.
That is true.
But anyway, so like literally every shot is done on a Steadicam, and they use 2 different cameras for this movie.
And they are?
Well, so they used the Arri Alexa XT.
That does not sound
and the
like
Arri
a
Alexa
camera name.
M. Yeah. So basically, it's just they had a big and a small camera.
Right, and what do you use?
The big camera was the one they used on the Steadicam.
Oh no!
And
that's not what I thought it would have been.
Well, this is relative. The relatively large camera was on the Steadicam.
And what did they?
And the other camera is like this camera that is like just basically the bare bones of a camera. It's like it doesn't even have a viewfinder or anything.
Oh wow.
And that was used for quote unquote extreme handheld or remote work.
Trying to think, extreme handheld or remote work. Were there any shots from on the ledge of a building?
Yeah, but also I was thinking like what they mean by remote work is I think they have the camera on some kind of electric
remote control.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Which I mean makes a lot of sense because there are certain points where you have to like cut exactly at a specific time and have the camera be in a very specific spot, right?
Yeah.
So you want to be able to make it like repeatable.
Oh yeah, that's true. So you have it on like a track, basically,
yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, basically. And actually, that might have been how they did the time-lapse shots.
That's true. So still no tripod.
Yeah, so not really a tripod in the sense, but like, you know. Anyway, so that's that. The other thing I want to talk about is lenses.
Ooh. Okay.
Okay, so This is kind of an interesting, like, outgrowth of the fact that there are no quote-unquote cuts. The fact that there are no real cuts kind of forced them to choose a certain way of doing the lenses.
Why is that? That's interesting. Why is that?
Well, so it's not something you would really think about, but if you think about it, like, when you change the focal length of a lens, like you use like an 18 millimeter versus like a 35 millimeter or something like that, right?
Yeah.
You're changing the field of view, right?
Uh-huh.
So if there are no cuts, how can you change the field of view without it being really noticeable?
You need a specific lens, I guess.
Well, you need to use the same lens all the time.
Right. So you're kind of forced.
So they basically did the entire movie on one lens.
So you need a lens that's going to be appropriate for every shot.
You can only do one lens. You can't really change it that much.
Yeah.
So they actually ended up using two different types of lens.
Right.
They used an 18 millimeter and a 14 millimeter, which are both incredibly wide.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very wide from what I understand.
Basically, I don't know. I guess they must have switched the two lenses out, like in very specific places that you wouldn't be able to notice it.
Like, yeah, I'm trying to think when they would have done that. What?
Well, maybe like when the whole screen goes black or whatever, right?
Yeah, yeah, right. When they like go through the doorway and they do the cut like that when it's like totally black.
Yeah, then you wouldn't really notice it as much, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so it kind of makes sense that, you know, not being able to cut, you would have to stick with basically the same lens the whole time. I think part of the choice of this was that there were certain, like, Inuyorichi wanted to get really, really close to his actors.
You want to get right up in their faces, yeah. A lot of close-ups
of
Michael Keaton looking confused.
Yeah, so they're specifically Lubezki said that they were. Wait, is that something Lubezki said? Sorry, no, it was Chris Herhoff who said this.
Oh, cool.
Because, you know, he's the guy actually doing it.
Yeah.
And apparently, like, they were getting, you know, so close that they were, like, you know, like 2 inches away from Michael Keaton's face or whatever like that.
That's intense. I don't know how you manage to act like that, seriously. Like, how do you get into character and stay in character with the camera 2 inches from your face?
Well, I mean, they're professionals.
Yeah, exactly. That's insane.
But, I mean, so one of the interesting other... So one of the things I find interesting about the way they shot this film is, like, kind of all their choices were kind of made for them.
Be by means of, like, how they wanted to do it. The fact.
Yeah, so, like, so like I was saying, like, they did it all on basically the same lens. It was all, like, an 18 millimeter because of reasons that I explained.
Yeah.
And they wanted to get really close to the actors. So another interesting thing is that they did not use a matte box anywhere on this film.
Oh yeah, you were mentioning that. Why is that?
Yeah. Well, like I was saying, when you want to get 2 inches away from an actor's face.
Yeah, well, that goes with it. You're gonna fucking poke them in the face with the matte box.
So actually, can you tell the audience what a matte box is?
It's like a light blocking device that goes on your lens, essentially. That it's like blinders, but on all angles. So it kind of like pokes out. It makes your lens, like functionally, it makes your lens like 4 inches longer.
Yeah, if you have all the flags on it and everything,
yeah.
It like makes it
like,
really, really big.
But it's a light apparatus.
Basically, I said, a matte box has 3 functions.
3, okay. I don't know that.
3 main functions. Okay. The first main function is to look cool.
Oh yeah, well of course. It makes you look like a professional filmmaker if you have.
Exactly. The second main function is to control flaring, which is what you were talking about.
Yeah, lens flare, right.
So basically, you have a bunch of flags, and you can adjust them so that it blocks out any kind of stray light that's coming into the lens.
Yeah.
And the third function is to hold filters.
Right. Yeah. Cool.
So you basically, and that's actually where the name comes from, because you have a bunch of slots in it that you can put in what are called mats.
Yeah, like color mats.
Well, no, actually, originally it was for like literally blocking off part of the screen.
Oh, interesting.
But I think like, because actually, if you watch a lot of old movies, you'll notice that they sometimes they like block off certain parts of the screen or whatever, which is something that I guess never caught on later.
No.
So, but anyway, that's why it's called a mat box. But basically nobody puts mats in it anymore.
Right. That's hilarious.
But they use those slots for filters.
They haven't updated the name.
No, because they don't like to do that.
This is Hollywood we're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think another reason why they didn't want to do that is because it's just one more thing to go wrong, right?
Yeah, right. So if it like...
Because you can imagine, like, they're on a Steadicam, and you know how the flag is kind of, like, hanging from the front. Just imagine if that flag just sort of starts lowering and gets into the frame.
You're like a loose screw or something, or you, like, tap.
Yeah, exactly. You know, anything could happen, right?
It's just a whole other layer of the living in oblivion nightmare.
Exactly. So, an interesting thing is that when I looked at pictures of them shooting this film without a mat box, is that they do have a little kind of like flare blocker on the lens, and it looks almost like the lens is like wearing a baseball cap.
I didn't see that. That's hilarious.
So it's like the tiniest thing. It looks like it does nothing, but like, you know, I'm sure it did something. Otherwise, they wouldn't have bothered putting it on.
Yeah, looks like it's wearing a baseball cap.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway. Yeah. Oh, we have a mat box. I don't need that.
Good point.
Anyway, so that was interesting. But yeah, it's another thing. It's like, you know, their original choice is that, you know, they wanted to do long takes, and this made all these choices for them. Yeah,
exactly. They were forced. Their hand was forced in most cases.
I think that was pretty cool. So let's kind of actually, before we do that, let me just talk about a little thing, and then we will get into what I think is obviously the most interesting part of how they shot this.
Okay.
I kind of noticed something when I was looking through the IMDb page on this movie.
Yeah.
Which is that...
Was it Star Trek connections?
No, it isn't actually. No, but it is something that we like to talk about quite a bit.
Okay.
Which is that I noticed that when I was looking for, okay, who is the first assistant camera or whatever, I came across something that said there's the second assistant camera Montreal unit.
What?
Part of this movie was done in Montreal because they clearly credited like actual camera people on this who are quote unquote part of the Montreal unit.
What?
But that's not actually listed in locations on the IMDb page.
Wow, sneaky. So they secretly shot part of this film in Montreal?
Well, I'm not exactly sure which parts, but I'll get to that.
Okay.
So I was interested in this, so I went, and also all these people are uncredited in the actual credits.
Right. But it's on the IMDb
And I think the reason for that is I will get into.
Okay.
And that is because, as you may know, in Canada we have a very well, I guess, you know, a very big sort of visual effects industry.
Yeah.
Like a lot of post-production and stuff is done in Canada, like CGI and all that, right? So specifically, the special effects were, and I found this in a French language article on infopress.com.
Awesome.
The special effects were done by a company called Rodeo FX in Montreal.
Okay. So what kind of special effects are we talking about?
Well, there's CGI in this film.
Oh, well, yeah, that's right. I totally forgot about those scenes where, like, it totally goes in, like, where Birdman is telling him to just make a Birdman 4.
Yeah, so my guess is that, because they credit, like, actual, like, camera people. It's not just, because you would think, okay, it's VFX, it's all, like,
it's
people.
all digital, yeah.
it's all stuff that's done digitally, right? But no, they credit a grip and a second assistant camera and people who are part of the Montreal unit. Also a stunt rigger.
A stunt? So what on earth happened in,
Well, so what I think happened is that I think what they shot in Montreal was simply plates for visual effects, like backdrops, basically.
Right.
So I think that there might be like scenes of New York City that are actually Montreal.
God damn it. We've talked about Toronto being New York, but we haven't talked about Montreal being New York.
Well, actually, I think it's really interesting because Montreal's not completely dissimilar from New York, actually, in a lot of ways.
How so?
Well, I mean, like, in terms of, like, when they were built.
Oh, yeah, right.
Like, the era, it's very kind of similar, and, like, also, like, some of the, especially sort of residential architecture is similar in some ways.
Oh, yeah. No, that's totally true.
So that's what I think it might be. Specifically, some of those shots where we had, like, the explosions and crap like that.
Yeah, the explosions, or maybe, like, one of the shots where he's flying or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. But anyway, I think it was interesting because this led me to read this article. Interesting things from some of the people who worked on the VFX. Basically, we have a couple quotes from some guy at Rodeo FX named Sébastien Francoeur.
Say it right.
Sébastien Francoeur.
C'est bon.
Okay. Let's not have French Canada boycott our
No,
podcast.
we love French. We love French Canada.
Okay. He says no 2 minutes go by without having to touch the image. He's the 3D supervisor for the studio.
No 2 minutes in the film?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because they basically kind of, I think they also had to do some stuff with like trying to mesh some of the shots together.
Yeah. Well, of course, like they had to really stitch it together, Frankenstein this bad boy together, I'm sure.
Yeah. And then another guy named Era Kanikian. I'm probably butchering that.
But you know.
He said it's a huge challenge. When we go to watch an effects film, it is to see them. When we watch Pacific Rim, it is to admire the robots fighting against monsters.
Interesting.
In these feature films, there is nothing real, unlike a film like this. In Birdman, our work has to be forgotten.
Interesting.
If a real object looks like it had been recreated in 3D, the spectator will disconnect. He will say to himself, "What is this?" Then we'll pick it up. Or sorry, then we'll... Yeah. I'm sorry, this is translated from French, so I'm probably not quite getting it correctly, but...
It's translated, yeah.
Yeah.
That's super interesting. Yeah. That is a good
because you were saying, like, where are the visual effects in this movie?
They're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
Yeah, like everything is, it's not about creating something new, it's about making what's already there work.
Exactly. But yeah, basically, yeah, kind of cool. Also interesting Canadian connection, as we talk about.
CanCon. Although,
what?
Birdman's
no,
not CanCon.
it's not. Well, I mean, that was specifically, we were talking about music, but this is different.
Yeah, we could go through the requirements for
I don't know what they
CanCon
are,
film, but I'm sure it's not this.
Okay, so now I think we will get to the cutting.
All right.
Okay, let's talk about the big lie here.
The big lie. Okay.
So Birdman is a lie, but if
it's all fake, man. It's all a lie.
It's all fake. So if you're listening to this podcast, I hope you knew that. But anyway, as we know, it was not one take. This is clear.
Of course, that would be insanity.
So this is I guess maybe a sub-segment of how did they shoot it, which I am tentatively calling how did they fake it.
How did they fake it? Nice. Okay, so how did they fake it?
Okay, so let's talk about like cuts.
Okay.
So how would you define a cut?
A cut? How do I define a cut? I mean, it's from its literal meaning. Like it's literally a cut. You're cutting the film at one point, snipping it, and you're splicing it to another part of film.
So does it require actually cutting the film?
I think I would say yes.
Okay, let's assume we're working on film here for a second. Because it's a bit easier to explain if we're talking about film.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because I mean, a digital cut's exactly the same, theoretically. Just conceptually, it's...
mechanically, it's quite different, but, I mean, conceptually, it's the same thing, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, say we're working with film. Let's
talk about working with film, because that's easier to explain. So, you would say that a cut is when I take a piece of film, like the way it was filmed linearly, cut it in one place and splice it onto another thing.
Well, to be fair, the splice isn't necessary for the cut.
Right. But you would also say that if I were shooting, and then I stopped shooting, and then I waited a bit, and then started shooting again, that would be a cut.
Interesting. Yeah, I would consider that a cut.
Okay. So what about when we were filming? I didn't actually cut the film, but there were cuts in it.
Yeah.
Because I stopped filming and then started again at a different point.
That's a good point.
So is that a cut? I would say it is.
Well, theoretically, you might have to edit it to make it more perfect. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I might need to make another cut, but I'm saying I did make a cut. It might not be the final cut, but it is a cut. If I stopped filming and then I started filming again.
Because you made the decision to end the take.
Yes. So that is a cut. When I stop and there is some amount of time that is not captured, and then we resume at a different amount of time, right? Different place in time, right? That is a cut?
Well, I guess it's a linear cut, yeah.
Yes, but so any time there is missing time, you would call that a cut.
Yeah, okay, there we go.
There is time that is not captured on film, or the place in time moves. Talk about moving in time.
Exactly, yeah.
Or moving an angle.
An angle?
Yeah, so if I cut from one angle to the other, but no time has elapsed, that's still a cut.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Okay. So let me get, like, more nitty-gritty here.
Okay.
So what about the time that is not captured on film in between the frames?
In between the frames. Well, now you're getting really hair-splitty here, aren't you?
Because, like I was saying, if I start filming and then I stop filming and then I start filming at a different place, that's a cut, right?
You're saying, like, the frames flicking through the camera, there's like...
Because you're only capturing a moment in time. Anytime you're actually 24 moments in time per second, right?
Yeah.
But, you know...
But you're not watching back real time.
You're not watching back real time. There's a cut. And in between every frame, there is time that is not being captured.
Yeah. It's so minimal that you don't notice it.
Well, actually, it's about... Because the shutter angle on films is mostly 180 degrees. So that means that half of the time is not actually on the film.
Right. Half the time.
Half of the time that you're filming for is not captured on film.
That's a lot of time.
Exactly. So basically, I'm saying that, you know, it's all fake anyway, because, you know... Because
you're not... Yeah, none of it is...
None of it's all an illusion anyway.
Film is all a goddamn illusion. It's all fake. There's no way to make it real.
There's no actual motion. You're only capturing still images, but you're just capturing a lot of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, the concept of film as just like a flip book is like sometimes one that gets lost, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I've really understood this now, like, when we shot that thing on 16mm, and I had it in my hands, like, you know, this is the film. Like, it's not some abstract idea. Like, I am holding my hands the only copy of the film. Like, this film is a physical object. It's not, like, you know, some vague idea. Which, I mean, this film was shot on digital, so it's a little bit different, but still, it's the same. I think it's something that you kind of realize when you hold that in your hand, and you're like, this is literally the mechanical things. This is how a film is put together, right?
Yeah, I'm holding the frames.
Exactly. So but anyway, the whole point is it's all an illusion anyway. So who cares if I move some things around?
Yeah, I guess you're talking to the people who are like bummed out that they faked it.
I mean, it would have been impossible to do, actually.
Well, yeah, but like people who get progressively more bummed out the more they find out that it's
Yeah. Well, I'm about to tell you that they faked it more than I think even you realize.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So let's talk about how they did some shots.
Okay.
I just wanted to get that out of the way because I just wanted to be clear. They're faking it anyway.
Yeah.
Film is all fake.
Okay.
Okay, let's talk about the mirror.
Oh yeah, because we were talking about how they shot around, how they managed to get the shot of where
How
he
do
like.
you think they did the mirror?
I think they just fucking edited out the cameraman in the mirror.
You think so?
Digitally. Yeah.
Okay. They didn't exactly do that. I mean, they kind of did. But do you, so you think that that it's all that they just edited out the cameraman?
Yeah, but I think they cut when they went behind his head.
I don't believe they did.
Okay. So how did they do that?
Okay, so it is an actual mirror.
It's an actual mirror.
However, this is a quote from Ara Kanikian, who I previously mentioned, the Montreal VFX supervisor.
Yeah.
Every time you're in a dressing room or anywhere with mirrors, we actually built a 2.5D DMP environment in those places.
What does that mean? Slow down. Hold on.
Well, he's about to explain.
Okay.
Most of what you see in mirrors is a map painting of the environment. The only thing we kept from plates were those that were rotoscoped foreground actors and their reflections.
Jesus Christ.
So the only thing you see in that mirror that, you know, was actually there, quote unquote, is Michael Keaton's reflection.
That's intense. That's cool.
What helps sell the seamless shots are the streaks, smudges, and light effects on the mirrors. For that, we built a little recipe in the comp to extract all those dirt elements. We had some shots where we could clearly see them, and we had a good extraction of them. In the composite is what they mean.
Yeah.
So in the comp, we had a little gizmo that would bring back all these dirt in the mirrors and then just dial them in.
So they basically like took some of the dirt and then just put it over the rest of it.
Exactly, so that because it looks like a mirror. It looks really convincing to me. I didn't realize that was CGI.
Yeah, it looks real. It's convincing. Very convincing.
But yeah,
mirror.
like I didn't realize how much of this movie was CGI, to be honest.
Yeah, that's intense.
But yeah, like literally, as they were saying before, like, you know, that's 2 minutes didn't go by that we didn't have to add something, right?
Yes. So I wonder, like, how much of that they knew going in was going to be like that.
I don't know.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, do you think they understood the degree at which it was going to require?
Well, I think by the time they started filming, they knew. Because they'd done it all on the soundstage, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. They did the post-production first.
Yeah, so, no, they knew.
They must have known, or would have shut down production.
I don't know if the people at Rodeo FX got any kind of Academy recognition here, but I think they should have.
Yeah, they seriously should have.
Because, I mean, to be honest, like, I when I first saw this movie, I didn't realize, except for the whole part with the explosions and Birdman flying, what was CGI.
Yeah, I didn't realize there was that much at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I didn't realize the mirror thing. So well. I assumed they would have done practical effects.
Let me just
with that.
look at Birdman Academy Awards. Because we know it won at least 2.
Yeah, well, I won a lot more than 2.
2 of the big ones.
Yeah.
No, nothing for VFX.
Visual effects.
Interesting. You know, I think they deserve...
Sad. What won visual effects that year?
Best
What won visual effects that year?
Oh god, Academy Awards 2015.
Yeah,
Okay, visual effects. Interstellar.
87th Academy.
Okay, well,
Oh,
you know,
yeah, okay.
But I mean, obviously, that's because Interstellar's all flashy and shit like that. You know, like
Yeah,
you know, it's not. It's,
so the flashy ones.
Like he was saying, you know, when we go to watch a movie like this, it is to see the effects.
Yeah, exactly. It's not. It's different type of effect.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that this
equally,
is the. This is just kind of how the Academy operates, I think.
Yeah, well, we all know that the Academy is a fucking a joke. Yeah. When we talk about Academy Awards, it's mostly
But I mean, like the whole point is like they're not like I think if. To be honest, I think if they had said like, okay, Birdman wasn't even nominated for visual effects, by the way.
Yeah, if they had said Birdman won,
people would have been like, where the fuck was the visual effects in Birdman? What about Interstellar?
Yeah, they would have been like, fuck you, Birdman. Interstellar did way better effects. Couldn't you see?
Yeah, I know, exactly. But that's the whole point. You can't see.
Because it's so
I know.
good.
Anyway, so let's talk about some other ways that they cut.
Okay.
So what stood out to you, like any times that you imagined that they would have cut?
Like what
like because while we were watching the film, you pointed out to me a bunch of times. You're like, I think they cut there, or I think they cut there. What kind of things?
Yeah, well, they like definitely cut. What kind of things? Like big lighting changes was my first. Like inside to outside, we talked about.
Yeah, I don't think there was ever a time they went from inside to outside without cutting.
Yeah, and every time you like change lighting so that it goes super dark, I think they did a cut there. Like they're walking through a dark hallway and it gets super dark for a second. That's a cut. Stuff like that. I think occasionally they did some pans, like that one time where they pan into the hallway.
Quick pan.
What?
Whenever they do a quick pan,
yeah, well,
and the whole screen motion blur, right?
Yeah, well, that as well. But I was also thinking about the time that they like go in, like they pan into the hallway, and then it's just like an empty hallway, and then an actor walks in. Like, you know what I mean? They probably just did like the cut there.
Yeah, that's for any time. But I mean, here's the thing about that though. That's really interesting is that like, so this is done on a Steadicam, right? So to do something like that would require basically that the Steadicam is pointing like really, really dang close to exactly in the right spot, which is like, you know, as good as Chris Hairhoff is, and he is excellent, you know, no human being can pull that off, I don't think.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying earlier, is that's kind of where I imagined most of the effects was like lining stuff like that up.
I'm sure there was some of that. But I think part of what made it easier to cut was like, once again, things like when you do a quick pan and there's motion blur or whatever, right? Because like two completely blurry shots of a white wall are going to look exactly the same. So you can cut there, right?
Yeah, exactly. No one's gonna notice.
Like you were saying, whenever they went in a dark spot, anytime, you know. Yeah, really, like, I just think it's really cool. Also,
it's creative. Super creative way of doing it.
But there was also the time lapse.
The time
lapse. Which is kind of like what I was saying about what about the time in between missing the frames?
Exactly, missing time.
Because I mean, like you could walk in front of you could like redo the whole set in between one frame of a time lapse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, like I was saying with the time in between frames, it's literally the same thing. You're just drawing it out.
Yeah, it's just a different,
theoretically,
relative form of time lapse.
If you moved fast enough, you could go through the frame of the camera without being seen.
Theoretically, if you move fast enough, but I don't think a human being can move that fast.
Across the plane of the camera within 1/48th of a second, you could do it.
If you were shot across the field of view by a high-powered cannon,
it could be done.
It could be done. I mean,
you would not
that's
be
why
seen.
you need that's why you need specific slow motion cameras to shoot high speed things.
Exactly. Anyway, is there anything you want to say about cutting?
No, I think you've covered it.
Pretty much. Basically, it's all fake.
It's all fake. No, but it's interesting how it's fake, because I think any reasonable person sitting down is going to be like, so it's fake, how did they fake it? Which is what I was talking about. I don't know if I brought this up last episode. I think I did.
Like, once you knew it was fake, you spent the entire time trying to spot it.
Yeah, and that's how it can be distracting.
Yeah,
and I think this movie does it really well.
Of this movie, to be honest, I think, is to get us film nerds, buzzing,
Yeah, it's like, oh,
how do they do that?
How they did that. Look how cool that looks.
And basically, of the hardworking Montrealers who made this happen and did not get credit. Anyway, what was I gonna say? Yeah, fantastic. Move on. What are we gonna talk about now?
Yeah, that's all you have to say about that, huh?
I don't want to say that.
Yeah. Well, so now we can talk a little bit. We're coming close to the end, but there's a couple more things we have to talk about. And we kind of briefly touched on it last week, but, like, the ending is really weird.
Yeah.
And, like, this whole movie is kind of like, it dances between surreal and real, and you don't really know what's actually happening most of the time, you know what I mean? Like, what's actually happening. It's one of those movies. And as we were talking about earlier, I think Alejandro likes to be pretty ambiguous, and he doesn't want to be definitive. And I think most, directors are like that.
Like, I think unless you have a really, really good explanation, it's probably best to just not address it.
Yeah, exactly, because there's no winning.
No, there's no winning, because people are going to ask you about it, right? And it's like, you don't want to look like an idiot.
Yeah, you don't want to, like, people be like, oh, that's not as clever as
exactly. So, it's best to just, hand wave it away.
So, yeah, if you don't say it, people will think it's
cool.
The smartest thing.
Exactly.
So, what he said about it, Iranitu, what he said about it, he said, Inuritu, God damn it.
Just call him Alejandro.
Alejandro. Look, I even wrote it wrong.
That's pretty bad.
Come on. I wrote it down incorrectly. I was just typing it quickly. God damn it. He said, quote, at the end of the film, it can be interpreted as many ways as there are seats in the theater.
I like that. That's very good.
To
specifically use that phrasing, I think, is good.
Yeah, you just mean, like, everybody has a different interpretation. So, what was your interpretation?
Well, I'm not going to talk about my interpretation because that's not important.
Okay.
I don't know. Basically, like, that's here's what I'm gonna say. Okay. It's this is a podcast about, I think, more or less about, movies and the people who make them,
Yeah. Exactly.
It's I'm not the kind of guy to kind of look, no, what's the word? Like prognosticate on
yeah, that's not really what we do here. It's woven in a lot of the time, but we don't really
and like he was saying, it can be interpreted as many ways as there are seats in the theater, and I think that's the point.
I agree.
I don't think he knows.
I agree.
I don't think he knows what the answer is.
This, to me...
Because that's not the point.
Exact. To me, directors are like this, are a lot like Bob Dylan songs.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
And that half the time, he didn't know what he was talking about.
Yeah. And that's no slight against, Inuyaritu.
No, it's still written well. They're still well-written songs. They just don't necessarily have to mean anything. They're just...
Yeah, so I'm saying, like... now we're starting to sound even more, like,
prognosticators?
Pretentious than I hoped we would be trying to avoid, but...
This isn't us. This isn't what we do.
No, anyway, and, like... So I will say that, like, I will instead talk about, like, what
the mechanics
movies like this, kind of. So basically, like, this is like there's not enough information here to actually come to a conclusion, and that's the point.
That is the point. Yeah, there's not.
It's like the ending of 2001: A Space Odyssey. Like, I can't tell you what that's about any more than I can tell you what this movie's about.
Yeah, exactly. I think another connection between these directors is that their ambiguity about... They like their ambiguity.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like, I think that, any kind of actual resolution would have made the movie worse. Worse.
Yeah, well, that's the writers said that, well, we talked about this a bit last week, but any comedic ending was completely ruled out, first of all.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I just want to... The Johnny Depp ending that we discussed a little bit.
Yes.
Like, that's as ambiguous as this is, to be honest.
As the actual ending is?
Yeah.
That's as ambiguous, but it's more comedic.
It's more dumb.
It's more dumb, yeah. But it is just as ambiguous.
Yeah.
Yeah, so sorry, what were you saying before that?
Yeah, just like any actual ending would have... removed from the quality of the film, I think.
Yeah, anything that wasn't ambiguous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'm not gonna say that I liked the ending. Like, it's... But, I mean, I think that was the best ending that they could have come up with.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I would have done differently, per se.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have 2 Academy Awards.
No, I don't have 3 Academy Awards.
About it.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I'm also not going to say I like the ending either.
Yeah.
But it's definitely it opened up the discussion we're having right now, which again, that's not our podcast. There's reasons for all of this. Yeah, it opens up the discussion for sure.
I think this is a common theme. I mean, if you're going to have any kind of ambiguity in the movie, I think that it's like, you can't really tie it all up.
Yeah.
In any kind of way. Like, also, yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm just thinking of, like, other movies in which, like, it's somewhat ambiguous in the ending. Like, you ever seen Naked Lunch?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that whole movie is incredibly ambiguous.
Yeah, that whole movie is like that. Yeah, it's not just the ending.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of another one that's like that.
I mean,
any David Lynch film, but...
You know the way The Thing ends?
Oh, yeah.
Let's not spoil that movie, but... Like, you don't know exactly what's going on at the end of that movie.
No, exactly.
But yeah.
I think that's just the hallmark of a good movie, honestly. Is one where you have to think about what is happening. Not necessarily a hallmark. Sorry, I'm going to take that entirely back.
Yeah, I was
it's
about
not a hallmark. It's not a hallmark of a good movie.
I mean, there are plenty of movies that are great that you know exactly what happens at the end.
Yeah, it's more... It's... Because hallmark's not the right word. It's what people do when they think they're trying to make a good movie a lot of the time, and sometimes it works, and a lot of the time it doesn't. Like...
Right. So what's a movie that you can think of where it doesn't work?
Where it doesn't work, where it's too ambiguous.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, even though I haven't seen it yet, M. Night Shyamalan's new film.
Oh, just because M. Night Shyamalan?
Yeah. And have you seen the commercials for it? It's like, what the fuck's going on here?
Which one is this? Again?
Old?
What happens in the trailer?
The trailer's just like, there's a bunch of, it's like, you see...
I saw a trailer.
You get the idea that there's like a bunch of people on an island and they're aging really rapidly in a sort of supernatural way. Also, the show, it's like, it seems like it's a lot like the show Lost. I think that's another example.
That's an ambiguous thing that... But don't get into Lost, because then I might start talking about J.J. Abrams.
We won't get into any of that. Did he do Lost?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
He was one of the writers, wasn't he?
Really? I did not know that. Huh.
Yeah, he won an Emmy Award for Lost.
Wow. Wait, so
he's the co-creator of Lost.
I did not know that.
Okay, now I'm talking about J.J. Abrams, okay? So let's
That's exactly what you didn't want to do.
Yeah. So fuck that guy, let's move on.
But no, this is good. This is what I was talking about. This is like, I think Lost is an example of the bad parts of ambiguity. Like, where it's just over ambiguity.
I think part of that just has to do with the mechanics of writing a long-running TV show.
Yeah, well, that's a TV show, so we are talking about something slightly different. But...
That's, like, I mean, it's not different in the sense of, like, you know, it's mechanically different in terms of what you see on screen, but that it's like, there is no way to know when you start making a TV show how long it's going to run.
Yeah.
So there's no way you can plan in the same way.
Yeah, you can, like, have your plan, but if you get canceled and before it's done, you're fucked.
Or if you don't get canceled,
you're arguably more fucked.
You're definitely more fucked. Plenty of shows are like that.
Yes.
I mean, the one that always comes to mind is Supernatural.
Oh, yeah. Don't even get me started.
So fucked by not... It should have got canceled so long. I mean, it is canceled now.
Well, that's a whole other conversation, though, because there's the original creator who did write... Like, they did have the perfect arc. Like, he wrote...
Oh, no, it had a perfect ending. But then they kept going.
Yeah, he wrote 5 seasons. They did 5 seasons. He left. It was over. Then it got renewed and did 10 more seasons.
Okay. Anyway, this is a bit of a aside. But,
yeah, okay, sure.
But yeah, anyway, so I'm saying, like, I don't think that there's any effective way you can do this based on, you know, in a TV show, just based on the way that TV shows work.
Yeah.
From, like, an economic point of view.
Yeah, totally.
So, yeah, I definitely think there are ways to not pull this off.
That is the point. There are ways to not pull it off. And I think, like you said, I'm not going to say I like this ending, but I'm happy with it.
Well, here's the thing. I think that here's what I think, and I think we kind of established this when we were talking about why you can't really effectively do this in a TV show, is that you need to know when you're making this choice how much you're actually going to reveal.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't do that with a TV show.
No, you can't. You can't know ahead of time what you're going to have to reveal, right?
Yeah, but you know exactly how much you're going to reveal in a film.
Exactly. So you know exactly how much to give the audience.
And in this case, it's like how much of his Birdman hallucinations, I'm going to call them, even though how much of them are actually hallucinations is the question.
Right. Yeah, so, you know, I don't know. I can't tell you any more than I can tell you whether or not in The Naked Lunch, if, you know, he ever was in Morocco.
Who the fuck knows, or was he just on heroin the whole time?
Maybe he was on heroin in Morocco. Who knows?
Who knows?
Anyway.
Well, here's an interesting quote that I think we need to discuss. So this is what the writers said. The writers also stated that reflections about the conclusion to the film were not directly concentrated upon Riggin or the character of Birdman as much as upon the lives of the surviving characters portrayed in the film, in particular the portrayal of Riggin's daughter Samantha.
Right. So are you saying that you think that Riggin doesn't survive based on that quote?
I'm not saying that's what I think. I'm saying, is that what they're implying? Is that in their heads he killed himself?
Who said this?
This is the writers, but let me find what the...
But, I mean, as we know, I don't think the writers are completely united in this.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing.
But once again, this is
writers.
Another thing about this ambiguity here, is that, like, you know, because it's not... The actual thing that happened is not actually committed pen to paper You know what I mean?
Exactly. So it's all theory. It's all theoretical, and it could be different.
It's
all
all
four writers.
because you have more than one writer. They're each going to have their own conception of it. Because the thing is, if I know anything from collaborating on anything, is if you don't have to come to a consensus, you won't.
Yeah. Yes. Indeed. And it will stay blank. Yeah. So, but that's just an interesting thought, because that just implies that they were going for.
Or one of them was.
One of them was going for a much loftier thing than I was reading into it, you know?
Yeah. So, okay, at the end of the day, here's my take.
Okay.
Here's my take on the ending.
Okay.
Is that I think there are 4 different endings.
4 different unwritten endings.
I think that every writer has their own idea, and they're all different.
That is.
And I think that there is no correct ending because nobody ever wrote it down.
That's a good theory.
Well, no, here's the thing. There is no objective,
there literally is no
reality
ending
of the ending because, A, it's all a movie, and they didn't film that.
Yes, it's all fake.
Whatever is not filmed in the movie does not exist.
Yeah, it didn't happen. It's not real.
It didn't happen. It's not real. In the reality of the film, because nobody ever created a final product of it, and it's all just an idea in 4 different writers' heads, there is no objective truth.
Indeed, exactly. Well, actually...
Oh, God! Is there a logical negation of falsehood?
There is!
So we're here to tell you about the subjective truth.
Let's talk about my theory.
Your theory? Okay, you go. I'm not discussing my theory.
No, Jake's theory is he's keeping it close to the vest.
I actually basically let it out. I don't know what happens. My theory is about, it's about the it's very meta.
It is very meta, exactly. So here's what I think. And this might come a little bit out of left field, but I think it's a good theory. So you know how Riggin has, in his hallucinations, has special powers?
Yeah.
And he can, move things with his mind?
Are you saying that Birdman is the reality and that the play is the hallucination?
Whoa. No, that's not what I'm saying. See, these are all good theories, and you should write them down for the book. But here's what my theory is. Ghosts.
Ghosts. Who's a ghost? We're talking Patrick Swayze here?
Who do you think? Who do you think? So here's what I think. It's all real. Everything that you saw in the film is real. All of his superpowers, it's all real, baby. Perpetrated by ghosts.
Is he a ghost, or is Birdman a ghost?
Birdman is the ghost, and
is he Birdman, or is he not?
Is Riggin Birdman?
Yeah.
No. Riggin's just Riggin, but he's being
okay. So
he's being haunted.
Riggin in a movie called Birdman.
Yeah. That's all real.
Did Riggin play Birdman?
But
Birdman is also real.
His backstory is all real, but then there's a ghost in the St. James Theater that is haunting Riggin and causing him to have these hallucinations.
The ghost isn't Birdman, but the ghost is manifesting as Birdman?
Precisely.
Ah, I see.
So, you know why this is?
So is it like The Shining?
Kind of like The Shining, yeah. But okay. The reason that this ghost theory makes sense is, I don't know if you know about theaters and
they're haunted?
Their history, but yeah, theaters are notoriously the most haunted buildings on the face of the earth.
Is that why you're not supposed to say Macbeth?
It's exactly why you're not supposed to say it. Well, that's slightly different, but it is related to
that's a curse.
Place.
That's not a theater. That's not a...
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure the legend goes that everyone who said Macbeth in the theater, not during the performance, died.
Right.
But I don't really know that's not what this one's about.
Okay.
Because that's more of a Shakespeare thing, and those are different types
We're talking
of
about
ghosts.
Broadway here, baby.
We're talking about Broadway, baby. We're talking about NYC ghosts. So
okay, ancient Indian burial ground.
Ooh.
That's what happens in The Shining.
That is what happens in The Shining. That's always the go-to. That's the best explanation for an unspecific haunting.
Well, as we know, the land of Manhattan, like...
Yeah. A lot of...
Okay, let me just... Manhattan. Who was the,
The Nation?
Yeah. Lenape? Is that the correct pronunciation?
I don't know. I don't know American nations very well, besides the southwestern ones, because they're in movies a lot.
Right. Well, isn't there not exactly a dividing line?
No, but I mean, I know the ones that are also in Canada is what I mean.
Right, I see, yeah.
But...
Yeah, anyway, all I'm saying is that,
You're saying New York was built on a...
New York itself, was all, native land, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it all.
Well, it all is, but I'm saying, like, it was, like...
Very specifically a community.
Very specifically occupied and, all that.
Yeah. But,
and they allegedly bought it for the equivalent of $24.
I shouldn't laugh. It's so evil, but, you have to laugh at some of these things.
Yeah. I mean, apparently this conversion rate has been calculated to be various different things, but none of them is worth it.
None of it's worth it. Yeah, well, it's all manipulation. But no, we're getting off track here.
Yeah.
Because I'm not talking about burial ground ghosts. I'm talking about theater ghosts.
Okay.
Because they're very different. So let's start with the New Amsterdam Theater. And I did a lot of research. The St.
New
James...
Amsterdam?
Yeah, exactly. This
is exactly what I'm talking about.
This is exactly what you're talking about. I know. But it's actually not. It's different. It's much later. I looked into the St. James, and but no, there were no ghosts that I could, no notorious ghosts of the St. James Theater. Every theater is haunted. People who work in them will tell you, but I couldn't find any notorious ghosts of the St. James Theater. So let's start with the notorious ghost of the New Amsterdam Theater.
Okay.
The actors and crew at the New Amsterdam. This is from Playbill.
So just to be clear, this New Amsterdam Theater is entirely unrelated to Birdman, except for the fact that it's also a theater that is similar in some way to the.
We're talking. I'm just giving you some backstory for theater ghosts to back up my theory for why I think Regan Thompson is a ghost. Or not?
Wait, Regan Thompson is a ghost?
No, Birdman is a ghost. Sorry.
Birdman is a ghost. Okay. Who's haunting Regan? Yeah.
So this is a slightly different type of ghost, but they're not all like this. So this is the ghost of Olive Thomas, a one-time Ziegfeld Follies chorus girl. She is by far the most active ghost on Broadway, manifesting so frequently that Dana Amendola, Vice President of Operations for Disney Theatrical Group, has placed photographs of her at every entrance to the theater, so workers can greet her when they arrive for work each day, which is believed to keep her mischief to a minimum. Olive's story is a sad one. She is a ghost, so that's not surprising. A chorus girl in the 1915 Ziegfeld Follies on the New Amsterdam main stage, and the Ziegfeld subsequent midnight frolics at the more intimate New Amsterdam roof on the top floor of the same building. Olive was whisked out to Hollywood, where she made a handful of silent films and married Jack Pickford, the ne'er-do-well brother of period superstar Mary Pickford.
Yeah, I was wondering if there was a relation there.
Who was in The General.
Yeah.
On a trip to Paris in 1920, Jack revealed that he had contracted syphilis, and she likely had it as well.
That's rough.
What happened next is up for conjecture. Official reports...
But this all happened in Hollywood.
But hear me out.
Okay.
Official reports say Olive accidentally swallowed an overdose of Jack's medicine, mercury biochloride, which is poisonous in large quantities.
Sounds like it's poisonous in any quantity.
I was going to say, yeah, it sounds like it's poisonous in small quantities, too. But one has to wonder how she could have, quote-unquote, accidentally emptied the entire bottle of blue pills. Olive died 2 days later, and her body was brought back to Woodlawn Cemetery in the Bronx for burial.
Right. Does this cemetery still exist?
I don't know. Look it up. It's a Woodlawn Cemetery. I mean, I'm sure it does. So it wasn't that long ago, 1915.
I don't know. I feel like they moved a lot of cemeteries. Okay, it seems like it still exists. It's a historical national landmark.
Holy shit. Woodlawn Cemetery.
Founded in 1863 by some of New York's most prominent citizens, Woodlawn tells the story of New York and the nation from the industrial age through today. Nearly every industry, class, and religion and ethnicity is represented in the veritable who's who of American history, reflecting on stories of art, engineering, industrialization, cultural, and societal development.
Interesting.
This is from their own website.
I'm reading through the names. I don't recognize most of them.
Notable residents?
Yeah. I'm just reading through it alphabetically, so that's probably not going to be helpful.
Okay, let's look up jazz musicians. There's got to be a lot of ones of them. Ornette Coleman, Miles Davis, Duke Ellington.
Okay, yeah. I see.
Anyway, there's a lot of famous dead people at Woodlawn Cemetery.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of ghosts there, to be honest.
Probably a lot of ghosts, yeah. But then an odd thing started happening. Workers at the New Amsterdam began telling friends they had run into Olive backstage. Impossible, they were told. Olive is dead. She appeared periodically throughout the 1920s, but then became quiet during the decades when 42nd Street went into decline and the theater was underused. However, reports began picking up again when Disney Corporation bought the theater in the mid-90s and began an ambitious restoration. Construction workers began reporting that their off-limit work area was being invaded by a woman carrying a blue bottle, like the blue bottle of pills that she OD'd on. The report continued after the theater reopened with King David and the Lion King in 1927 and have continued since. So stuff like they would you'd see like a disembodied foot like climbing up a ladder from the stage, or you see you heard people would meet her backstage. There's one story where a woman asked an usher. She was like, can I get a booster seat for my kid? And they were like, yeah, but you'll have to wait for the intermission because we can't do that during the show. And then when they later they saw that she had a booster seat. And she was like, oh, that woman in the back helped me out. And all the staff members were like, what woman in the back? And they all
the ghost
conversed because none of them had helped her out, and you're not supposed to do that during the show. But it was the ghost.
Well, she seems like a nice ghost.
She is apparently quite a fun-loving ghost. She's not violent at all, so
right.
That's
Unlike
good.
Birdman.
Unlike Birdman, who is a violent ghost.
Who is, according to you, a ghost.
Who is a ghost, yeah. Definitely a ghost.
Right. But just to be more specific, you're saying that there is a ghost in the St. James Theater.
Yeah.
Who is not Birdman, but takes on the persona of Birdman.
In Regan Thompson's case, I don't think, if he was haunting someone else, I don't think...
He's playing Birdman, essentially.
Yeah,
he's acting.
He's acting. He's tormenting
So he's definitely
Regan.
an actor. He's a dead actor.
Exactly. So hold on. But yeah, there's a lot of theater ghosts. There's a guy called David Belesco. He's the most alive looking of the theater ghosts. He appears...
Okay, what does that mean?
Well, it's like Birdman. He doesn't have wispy ectoplasm, and you can't see through him. He appears as an actual dude.
Like in The Shining.
Like in The Shining, exactly. Because those who have
apparently, I think most reports of ghosts actually are not see-through, right?
Yeah, they're not
most time people report ghosts, they're solid, right?
Well, yeah, I was just
or
gonna
appear
say,
solid at least. Yeah.
if we really want to get into the ghost, I'm almost as into ghosts as I am into aliens.
Well, I mean, one day we'll do Ghostbusters. Maybe we'll do. And,
Oh,
I know you do.
God. But yeah, that's we're getting just distracted.
Okay, so what about the alien ghosts?
Whoa, like ghosts of aliens?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, well, yeah, why not? That's a
I mean, I
whole.
think that's happened several times in Star Trek.
Yeah, of course.
Actually, I can think of a very specific episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation
Which episode?
where they get taken over by alien ghosts. I don't know if you've seen it. They take over. I think they take over O'Brien, and some other people, or maybe Riker and Crusher as well. Anyway, there are alien ghosts. Point in case.
Like most ghostly sightings in theaters are ones like this. And this sort of thing happens a lot. We've had strange happening on stage. One evening, the candles on one of our 6 hanging candelabras completely burnt down, probably twice as quickly as all the others, without any perceptible draft or obvious external influence. An unsolved mystery. But then the more interesting ones, obviously, are in a 2008 interview, Daniel Breaker told Playbill that one evening he was putting on his makeup in his dressing room mirror when he saw an old man with white hair sitting behind him, silently watching him. When Breaker turned around to demand what he was doing there, the man, who resembled nobody working on the show, was gone.
He was a ghost.
He was a ghost.
Classic.
So that's my theory, is Birdman is a ghost, and I think that's an excellent theory.
Okay, interesting theory. But before we move on, I just want to point out that I was looking for the Star Trek episode.
Yeah.
And I found another Star Trek episode of alien ghosts.
Which episode?
This is the episode Sub Rosa, which is the one where Dr. Crusher falls in love with an alien ghost.
Oh, I do remember that episode. That's a later episode, though, isn't it?
Yeah, season 7.
Yeah, that sounds like a season 7 episode.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
but anyway,
that's the truth.
That's ghosts.
That's the truth. So we've got one final section. I think this has been quite a long episode, but
wait. Okay, let me listen to my theory here.
Oh, you've got a theory.
I got a new theory.
Oh, you got a new theory that's developed over the course of this.
So Birdman is not a ghost.
Okay.
He's an alien.
I like this theory. Go on.
He's an alien who has but he's like it's like a bug or something like that, you know. But he's somehow like, you know, he's like a parasite. And
Are you saying he's a fucking Goa'uld?
No, because he's not taking over him, right?
Right.
But he's like living in his skull and he's like feeding him visions, right?
Right. Interesting. I think there's a Star Trek episode like that too.
Yeah, exactly. I think there is. I mean, 90% of my sci-fi ideas are either from Star Trek or Stargate, but like...
I mean, 90% of sci-fi ideas, period, are from Star Trek or Stargate.
Exactly. But like...
So...
Yeah, so he's an alien parasite that is feeding visions into Riggin, right?
This is good.
And so he's trying to convince Riggin to kill himself so that he can feed upon him.
Right. So he needs him to be dead. So they like this this type of alien. They get creatures to kill themselves so that they can feed on their corpses.
Exactly, and there are parallels in the fungal universe.
There are, yeah. Like the one that
about wasp... that thing that like attaches to the ants.
Yeah, and wasps.
And it like
stuff.
Exactly. It happens, you know.
There
are funguses that do this.
This is a good theory. So it's an alien. So how did?
Well, it's an alien fungus because normally these things can't affect humans.
Yeah. No, it has to be an alien. I'm just trying to think how Riggin got affected with it.
So yeah, it's not a bug; it's a fungus.
Yeah.
Well, fungal material from outer space.
Yeah, that's a good theory. That's a good theory.
Okay. So what was this thing you were telling me about Edward Norton not being real?
I think I read that somewhere, that Edward Norton was like, because he doesn't show up in certain, like, after a certain point.
So it's like a reverse Fight Club.
Kinda, yeah, it is kind of like a reverse Fight Club.
Because it's Edward Norton who is now the one who isn't real.
And he is like the catalyst for, like, Birdman being, like, coming out, you know what I mean?
So you say Birdman comes out whenever Edward Norton shows up?
Well, Edward Norton.
That's not true, though.
Well,
There's plenty times where Birdman comes out that has nothing to do with Edward Norton.
No, but Birdman's like he takes hold in Riggins' mind as a result of Edward Norton's actions.
But I mean, he shows up before Edward Norton's even brought into the picture. In the first scene, Birdman is talking.
Okay, so here's so Birdman made the light fall on the other actor.
Well, the ghost or the aliens did.
Yeah, these theories are all getting too mixed. I don't know. I don't think that's a real theory about Edward Norton.
Okay, real. Yeah, anyway.
I think that's like a deep internet theory.
Let's move on.
Yeah, to our last section of the day.
Yeah. Is this the final thoughts?
This is the final thoughts.
Which we do not have a theme for, but I don't think we need.
No, I mean, this kind of like, because we did get a little bit,
I think, yeah, we got a little bit more, analytical here.
Than we usually do, yeah, like...
We usually do, but despite my best efforts to avoid it.
Yeah, again, it's not us, but, you know.
It invites this
That is,
analysis.
Yeah, this is that kind of film. I think if you avoid that entirely, you're kind of...
Yeah.
You're missing a lot.
That's not the point. Yeah. Anyway, what was I going to say?
Your final thoughts.
My final thoughts. Okay. I don't know if this should be obvious, but the way... No, it's not. Which is somewhat disappointing to you, I know.
Somewhat.
You know, I actually, to be honest, I think this film is slightly overrated.
Yeah, I agree.
Which you may not have understood by the way I've been talking about it, because I think it is very well put together. It's very well done. But I think that, you know, to be honest, I did find the way it was shot somewhat distracting.
Yeah, totally.
And I did not see all the comedy all the time.
Yeah, I like this movie a lot, but I do agree that it is a little bit overrated in a lot of ways. I think it's artistically overrated.
Like, yeah, don't get me wrong, it is a good movie.
Yeah, it's a formidable film.
Watching it, but yeah. Do I think it was the best movie made that year? Let's find out. Okay, I don't know. Okay, here we go.
There were a lot of films in the
20. So this is okay. What do we got? Okay, so
87th Academy Awards.
This is 2015. So we have nominated for Best Picture: Birdman.
Yeah.
Boyhood.
Oh yeah.
The Grand Budapest Hotel.
Yeah.
The Theory of Everything. American Sniper.
Ugh.
What?
Just first an Eddie Redmayne film and then
Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
Okay. Selma.
Okay.
The Imitation Game, which is a terrible fucking movie.
Yeah, I hate that movie.
It's so bad.
I hate that movie.
Which is both historically and scientifically incredibly inaccurate.
That movie...
And Whiplash.
That movie exists just for... not Whiplash. Imitation Game exists just for Benedict Cumberbatch to be in a...
I mean, to be clear, he does look like the guy.
A little bit. Like Alan Turing, yeah.
Yeah, like Alan Turing. They have a certain physical resemblance, but I honestly think that movie is disrespectful to his memory.
I think that movie did him totally dirty. I agree.
Exactly. Like, I don't know. I've mentioned before that, you know, my profession is I'm a computer programmer, right? So, like,
yeah.
You know, I'm also very interested in the history of computer programming, so I do know quite a bit about Alan Turing and all the work that he did.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, just like, I don't know, I couldn't watch that movie.
No, I've only seen it one time, and it wasn't. It also has what's her name, Keira Knightley, and I don't like her. Except
oh yeah, also that was a terrible. Her role was a terrible casting.
Yeah, yeah. I like her in Pirates of the Caribbean 1.
Oh yeah, no,
2 and 3.
What about Love Actually?
I could take her, leave her in that movie. I like that movie.
I mean, the rest of the cast, it's hard for her to stand out, I guess.
It is hard. Great cast.
So out of these movies, this is not every movie that came out this year, but this is every movie that was nominated. Which one will you pick?
Let's see.
I know which one I pick. Tell me what you would pick, and then guess which one I would pick.
I think we would pick the same one, and I think they're both Grand Budapest Hotel.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, I think we both agree that that's the best out of that bunch.
Out of that bunch, yeah.
Yeah.
Grand Budapest Hotel, which was produced by Scott Rudin, incidentally, I just noticed.
Incidentally, yeah.
Scott Rudin, who we mentioned a couple times before.
We've talked about him before.
Yeah. So yeah, Birdman, pretty good, but I prefer Grand Budapest.
I agree. So that's the final thought. I prefer Grand Budapest.
Yeah. Okay, but this is just for Best Motion Picture Award, but what about Best Actor in a Leading Role, for whom Michael Keaton was nominated?
He was nominated. He didn't win though, did he?
There were 5 nominations.
Read me the nominations.
Do you want to hear the nominations?
Yeah.
Okay, Steve Carell.
Yeah.
Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you probably want to know what movie it's from.
No, I remember the movie. Bradley Cooper.
Okay.
Yeah. But
the American Sniper.
Yeah.
Steve Carell for Foxcatcher, which was not amongst the movies above everybody else was from.
Yeah.
And Eddie Redmayne.
Oh, God, I hate him so much.
Benedict Cumberbatch for Imitation Game.
Yeah, that was
Eddie Redmayne for The Theory of Everything.
Yeah.
And Michael Keaton for this movie.
Oh, I know who won. I remember who won. I'm very annoyed about who won that Oscar, and I always have been very annoyed about who won that Oscar.
Well, yeah.
Eddie Redmayne.
Right. Out of these, I would pick Michael Keaton.
Yeah. Out of those, Michael Keaton was the winner for sure.
I don't know why Benedict Cumberbatch was even nominated.
No, it's... Anyway, we're getting really sidetracked here, but yeah.
Okay, no, but like in all these other awards, a lot of the people in this movie were nominated. So
yeah, it's true. I think Steve Carell, that was the closest he's ever come to an Oscar.
Yeah, I mean, Steve Carell not exactly normally Oscar bait.
No, not. I mean, now he is.
But,
though.
Right.
He's desperate for one. I think he's taking on these Oscar movies.
I guess, yeah.
Like he did this movie, he did The Big Short, he did that weird one about that military guy who.
Yeah.
Had that
Big Short. It's based on a Michael Lewis book. Which,
yeah.
Same writer as Moneyball.
It's all interconnected.
Maybe we'll do that at some point. Yeah.
All right, let's wrap it up. Let's see. Any other last thoughts? Not really.
No, yeah, it's a lot of interesting stuff in this movie, I think. And I think, okay, here's my final thought on this movie.
The final thought. Here it is. Okay.
The final thought that I have, and it is about the Academy.
Yeah.
This movie deserves some kind of recognition for its VFX, and there should be another category called subtle VFX. Something about the VFX that you don't notice. Like, I don't know how you call that category, but like, I think that there are a lot of movies that have really subtle VFX in them, and that's what makes them great.
Yeah.
And nobody notices them. No. And I think these people at Radio Effects, the people at Radio Effects deserve some recognition, okay?
I agree.
And that's not just because they're in Canada.
Wow. That's part of it.
So that's it. We will see you we will not see you next week.
No, we are off next week.
We're on vacation.
We are on vacation. We will catch you in Algonquin.
Yeah, we'll be on a 4-day canoe trip. And we may or may not be doing some filmmaking.
Some filming.
Yeah, I talked to the lab yesterday. I'm going there to pick up some film. And, Get done.
Film shot.
Yeah, and Kodak 50D.
Sick.
Good stuff. All right.
But yeah.
All right, I'll play us out now.
Yeah, so we'll see you 2 weeks.
See you guys, 2 weeks from now. We'll be doing a movie. We'll let you know.
yeah. It'll all be